Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name is Jeff Thomas, and we have a very special guest with us today, Paul Schultheis, who is the CEO of Real Property Investment Services and a longtime real estate investor, but also, very interestingly, the founder of SRG, which is Strategic Resource Group, which does ministry in the Middle East and North Africa. And we'll get into both of those things. But I just, first of all, welcome to the program, Paul.
Thank you. Glad to be.
It's a joy to have you, and we've known each other for a while, and I'm looking forward to everybody else kind of getting to know your story that may not already know it. Tell us, I know you're in California now, but were you always a California boy? Where'd you grow up? Tell us a little about what your family was like and where you grew up.
Yeah, actually, I am a native California. Was born in LA and moved around with the family and spent most of it in Southern California in the San Gabriel Valley, Orange County, Newport Beach area now. And it's been a great place to grow up, actually.
Did you have a lot of siblings?
I had two brothers,
Mm-hmm.
one older, David, and one younger, Thomas. And still in touch with them. And my brother Thomas lives up in Santa Barbara, and my brother David lives in Colorado Springs. So
Beautiful.
Great family. I have three daughters, 8 grandkids. And interesting enough, all the three daughters just moved like 5 blocks from me over here on Lido Isle, and they're all like on Lido Isle now. I was married 62 years to a wonderful gal. She died, Linda, passed away 2 years ago, actually yesterday or day before yesterday.
Yeah.
A few days before Super Bowl. So, but we had, I think, as best a marriage it could be. She kept me humble. Probably is the best way to describe her.
One of the greatest benefits of marriage is the gift of humility.
Exactly. She knew me well. She was totally supportive of me throughout my life, both in business and in ministry. There were a lot of needs to travel, particularly when you're in international ministry. She actually was solid with the daughters. They all clearly have great memories of her and grieving at her passing.
Yeah.
But they're kind of stuck with me now. So that's.
Well, it's a blessing to have such an amazing family. And I know your daughters dote on you as well. But was there faith growing up, or entrepreneurship, or real estate? What was going on in those categories growing up?
Well, I don't know if it was entrepreneurship. My dad was an accountant, but then he got into furniture business, retail furniture business. And so there was this idea of business. I don't know early on that I actually knew what entrepreneurship was, but he provided a great, living for us as a family. He was a good father, and we were actually members of the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church. And basically went through all the catechism, all the youth groups. It was a stable in our family, and I think provided a basis. We learned Bible, but we actually maybe didn't fully understand a personal relationship with Christ until we made some moves and ended up in a wonderful Presbyterian church with a young pastor that hosted young people in his home every week for just sharing and Bible study. And that was part of that journey too. And I don't know, we seem to move around a lot. I don't know why, but we always we moved into San Marino and ended up connecting with neighbors who invited us to a small group, and that led us to join Lake Avenue Congregational Church. And there we had Ray and Ann Ortland, who were really great mentors, and Ann would disciple women, and Ray would disciple men, and it was just a great experience.
Yeah, so that was as a kid. You moved around a lot.
Well, no, that was actually
or later.
We got married. Yeah.
Yeah, after you got married.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, real estate people, you can't stay put. You gotta buy some new piece of dirt.
I know.
So how did you get into? I mean, you went off to college. What did you study?
I was at management science, which was kind of a combination of management and science. It was good. And then I went on to Pepperdine for an MBA.
Yeah.
Actually, I ended up getting a job at JPL in an administrative role at JPL. Had some fun and interesting experiences. This was so long ago that I was part of the Ranger mission team. Actually had an opportunity to be the voice on Cape Canaveral, 10, T-10, countdown.
Wow.
And in charge of the security of the Space Flight Operations Center. And in those days, we'd shoot a rocket at the moon, and it had a camera on the front of the rocket. And if the camera went blank, well, you knew you hit it. That's how you knew you hit the moon. The screen went blank, and everyone would cheer when the screen went blank.
Wow.
Now, of course, they circle the moon, land on the moon, head to Mars, and all that stuff. But those were like early days of that. And I actually worked for the head of the space flight operations, and he, at one point, he sort of advised me that I might have a limited future there because everyone else was engineers.
Exactly.
Aerospace engineers, electrical engineers. So then I made a move to Southern California Edison Company, which makes no sense because they're all engineers too, electrical. And I don't know, they saw some potential in me. I got a executive development fast track team, and they moved me from functional to functional, from HR to engineering to customer service.
Right. You got the whole view. That sounds like the management track. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, they're the ones that sponsored like 10 middle management guys to go get their MBA with Pepperdine.
Oh, okay. That was nice.
And what was really nice about it is we would leave our offices, go in the conference room, and they'd have all the professors there. We didn't have to commute.
Right.
Had to walk down the hall, and we were in school. And it was great because that set up relationships with different different departments, and we were all kind of young management people, and those relationships paid off for years. You could call up the guy and say, "Can you help me with this?" And that led to ultimately, at a very young age, I ended up as the manager for long range corporate planning with about 10 MBAs working in my department, and we reported to the officer group, and we developed the long range corporate planning process. And that was a lot of fun, and that was a lot of, but there I think I started to learn how to plan and how to forecast and how to make assumptions and address corporate problems, create policy in support of the executive group. And those things are still real to me. That was probably more education than the actual book learning.
Right.
Which you can imagine.
How do you get from that? That sounds like a fast track in management to real estate, this entrepreneurial thing that happened. How did that transition happen?
Well, I was with Edison for about 12 years, but I started to get claustrophobic. When you're in a corporation, it's a lot of politics, and
oh yeah,
you try to work up. you finally end up with a corner office with a bathroom and a
Right.
sofa, and that's like,
Nirvana.
sort of made it, yeah. But I remember standing, looking out the window, and just feeling claustrophobic in that environment. And maybe that's where entrepreneurial spirit starts. And then I had a younger brother who was an artist, and he actually would buy these little homes, and he wasn't even thinking real estate, but he'd redo the landscaping, he put awnings on it, he paint. It was a canvas to him.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say. Like he made
It
it
was a
prettier.
canvas.
He's like, yeah,
And as soon as he finished that, he'd sell it and buy another rundown.
makes
You know?
sense.
And so I got looking at him, and he'd sell these houses, and he would make more by doing that one house than I made all year at Edison.
Right.
And at first I thought, oh, he's really lucky, but he did it so consistently that
Uh-huh.
there was something that was before flipping houses went on TV.
Right. Yeah.
Program.
I have a feeling he would have been good on TV, but yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, I think I'm going to try that. And so on my lunch hours at Edison, I'd look at property and
Right.
Ended up buying a few rentals. But then I actually thought that I ought to leave Edison. Actually, it was my wife of 62 years. She only threatened to divorce me 3 times, which is a record, by the way, for most people. But so one of them was then because I was, at Edison. I'd be
No, you had a safe job. Why are you going to give up the safe I mean, you did all the MBA, the whole thing. Like you're on the track, man.
They thought I was a future vice president.
Right. You're going to get the sink in your office. You're killing it.
And then, so I'd spend my Saturdays with my 2 girls at that time and throw them in a VW bus and drive down to the properties, and I'd do everything myself. I'd paint, change the knobs, change the pictures. And so pretty soon Linda said, okay, I don't care what you do, but you have to make a choice.
Okay.
You either stay with Edison or go into real estate. And so she was not insisting that I stay with the more secure. Everyone thought I was crazy leaving Edison.
Yeah, of course.
By then I had maybe 4 little duplexes. I'd buy one and then fix it up and refinance it and get my money and buy another one. And was doing everything myself. But the girls because we'd stop for donuts on the way to and they could
totally
take their roller skates and skate up and down.
Perfect.
While Dad's painting something. So then I started to sell a duplex like every 4 to 6 months because I could live. And then I started to look at 10 units and then talk to friends and family. I don't have any money, so
you go in with me.
And that's sort of how it started. I never actually got any real estate money from anyone other than friends and family. I never, public money or anything.
Wow.
And then there was one of was my life insurance guy who also went to church, same church, Tom Delahook, and so he approached me because I would have these little meetings with friends and family. Say I need to raise 300,000 or 400,000, and
right, give me the update together.
So Tom in the life insurance business, he approached me one day and said, I've got a lot of surviving spouses, and they get an insurance payoff and they don't know what to do with it. Would you mind if I recommended that they invest in real estate? So that sort of was a notch up.
Right.
And I said, well, I don't want to have to deal with all these widows or widowers, but if you will form an LLC or partnership and you communicate it with them, you can be the point person, and we'll communicate to you and you can communicate to them. So that put us in another level. And then I sort of took my younger brother's strategy because he lived in Long Beach area, and he put a compass in a map and he drew a circle like no more than 5 miles from his house, and he only bought something in that area.
Right.
And basically his strategy was, I don't want to have to be away from home. I don't want to have to, and he would know every real estate guy who was selling rental properties, and he'd tell him he's interested in buying. And then he didn't have any money, so he'd get hard money loans. And
wow.
None of us inherited money, so and he would flip these things. So like during the escrow period, he would plan the rehab, and he could flip a 10-unit apartment in like 60, 90 days. Wow. He had everybody lined up so to stay close to home is what I wanted to do too. So basically we knew Pasadena, San Gabriel, Arcadia, the surrounding cities. And then I convinced my older brother to leave his job and join me. And so we just did this together and built a fairly small portfolio. And then there's a couple other guys that I knew at Edison, Dennis Neal, who was in the construction engineering. He knew construction a lot, and I convinced him to join. And then another guy, John Orser, who was sort of handled property management. So there was 4 of us that formed this, I guess, the company. But none of us actually had much money. We just did lots of we could close an escrow at least once every other week, and they were small properties, but we built this portfolio, and they're all nearby, so they weren't hard to manage. Anyway, that just kept going, and gosh, then 2009, let's see, 80. The late 80s and early 90s was a real downturn.
Yeah.
And let me back up a little bit. Dennis Neal was a construction guy. So then we decided, well, he knows construction.
Oh, yeah.
And why don't we acquire land?
Yeah. Start building your own stuff.
So then, because we were like, anything is fun, right? So we built condominiums, commercial office, medical office, and they got pretty big. We couldn't believe that banks would loan us that much money.
Yeah.
What's funny is all these banks want a relationship, and they try to tell you, well, we want a relationship banking. And in those days, most of them were savings and loan. None of them are around anymore.
Right.
So what happened? It was just kind of interesting.
Yeah, they did kind of get wiped out with the RTC in 1990.
Yeah. So actually, one of our partners, and the youngest guy and the most athletic and fit, he died of pancreatic cancer, which was an issue that we went through.
Oh, man.
But we what did I say? I think one of the breakthroughs is because of the downturn, my brother sort of stressed out, and he left and went to Colorado. And he got some of the assets, and he bought some apartments in Denver and so forth, and then went into politics. We couldn't get any more. There wasn't any more lending when.
Right. Yeah, the capital dried up in the 90s. Right.
So then Dennis left because we weren't building anything.
Right.
Anymore.
The builder leaves. Okay, we're down to 2.
So now I was left with the management and the investors.
Okay.
So and we had we had medical and commercial and
everything.
And the wave was coming to California. Was actually heading down too. So I decided that I need to sell. And uh, by then Arizona was like cheap because it had already gone down and RTC took over a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to take the sell out of California, rebuy in Arizona because we could get cash flow there. We never had cash flow in California, only appreciation.
All right.
So the and then I didn't want a variety of type of investment, so we decided I'm just going to do apartments and only 100 units to 300 units.
Okay.
And so we sold out of California, reinvested through RTC stuff like 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
We thought we were smart, but it was just you could throw
the
it.
The timing was perfect. Yeah. Believe it or not, you're not going to believe this story. You and I haven't talked about this. I was working for Arthur Andersen in Washington, D.C. in, I think it was 91, maybe even 92. I was running one of the war desks, they called it. And I was the guy in the cheap poly blend suit just out of college dealing these things for pennies on the dollar. And I literally, we may have even met. Okay. If you went to DC, okay. I remember in slow motion watching the guys I would sell these deals to. I had this big spreadsheet. I'm just trying to get rid of it.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
And I mean, I'm a kid. I mean, I'm in the early 20s. I'm like 22. Okay. I have no business doing this. Anyway, I remember watching the guys leaving that were ahead of me in this deal. Like in my mind, they were like slow motion high-fiving, leaving the conference room. And I was like, I am on the wrong side of this
the table.
But anyway, that's a whole nother episode we'll have to do sometime on the RTC. For anybody under 50, they have no idea what we're talking about, but you can look it up.
But even then, we thought we were smart. We could have bought anything and made money.
Oh, I know. I mean, it was shooting fish in a barrel at that point.
Crazy.
But that was good. So you kind of took this sort of amalgamation of learning and then you sort of concentrated it on this 100 to 300. That sounds like a good strategy. That worked out apparently.
Because we wanted something large enough to have management and maintenance people on.
Good point. Yeah, a little bit of scale, just enough.
Yeah. So I'm not sure where this. So anyway, my kids were growing up, and I was entering my 40s, and so this is sort of a turning point. The business was prospering. We were doing a good job of the management, and more, the more successful we were, the more people wanted to invest with us.
Yeah.
And I had a couple guys who were in the publishing business, friends, who were much wealthier than I was at the time. And some of them, at those days, I'd get a check from a guy for $500,000 as the first guy in, before I even had paperwork on the partnership.
Right.
It's a trust thing. And so sometimes that reputation of maybe integrity and trust and doing a good job, it'll attract funding.
Yeah.
And then we've always been leveraged buyers. To me, if you can use, I call it opium, other people's money.
Yeah.
And that can be bank money, it can be investor money, it can be seller carryback. Because I never had any money, so it had to be other people's money. And then it just grew, and then we moved. We were mostly started in Phoenix, but a lot of the institutional buyers are in Phoenix. They don't want tertiary or secondary markets. And pretty soon it dawned on me that new product, they could just come in and write a check, all cash, and boom, it's gone. So we decided we were going to be in the B level, not A level properties, but B level properties, not C or D, which are mom and pop. So we were like in professional second level.
Yeah.
And the reason I like that is that in an economy that's going to decline, those that are in A properties we'll move down to the
Yeah,
big properties.
people.
In an economy that's rising, those that are in the mom and pops, they're going to move up. So we're like always we're always full, and that was again, I don't know that it was well thought out, but it just seemed to make sense.
Logical. It is logical, still is, but
Yeah. And then we decided to move out of Phoenix because it's too much competition and too many people were there.
got popular.
So we found some properties up in Flagstaff.
Hmm.
And that was attractive because I love the mountains, and I'd rather go to Flagstaff and look at the properties and manage properties up there. And so we ended up actually buying a lot of properties. Still have, I don't know, 10, 12 properties, pretty good size in Flagstaff. And then we kind of trickled down to Sedona and trickled down to Cottonwood. So northern Arizona became a good place for us to be. And that's worked out. And that's where our family assets and partnership assets reside today. But so there was a point at which, let me back up. So I was always involved in missions for some reason.
Yeah, let's get into that side of the story.
I always ended up in mission. I think it was always in my spirit that the Great Commission was an important thing,
mm-hmm.
and that we should be spreading the gospel, particularly in places that it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember being on missions committee with like 8 elderly gray-haired ladies.
Yeah.
Mission committee.
Yeah.
In most.
You're right. I know. Yeah.
And I got thinking about that. And then, the churches we went to always had this map, of all the missionaries that they.
Right.
But I looked at that map, and most of them, many of them were from the church, that were supported. But I kept looking at that, and I would actually talk to the pastor at mission. Why do we just have the pictures of our missionaries and not the people they're serving? We don't even, they're like in Africa with some tribe. We have no idea what that tribe is or why. So to me, it's just really important to understand I guess you'd call them the audience that you're trying to share the gospel, not who you are.
Who's your customer?
Yeah. And then I finally dawned on me, actually it was the Treasure Principle book.
Oh yeah,
Randy Alcorn. Small book, but powerful scripture.
Very good. We've had him on the program. He's amazing.
Yeah, and that kind of got me really thinking that how come I've been going to church all my life and heard dozens, hundreds of sermons and been discipled and so forth, but it never really got through to me, and I think it's still a problem today, that I'm not an owner, I'm a steward.
Yeah.
And this business and all these properties. And
right.
And that really got me really focused on stewardship and what that means. And that to me that was a life, that changed every decision I made.
Kind of just a lens through. You probably had heard that language before. I know it's been like that for me. I've probably heard that. I may have even said it, but there's something about when it really hits you that, wait, I am not really taking any of this with me, right?
Yeah.
Like, and one of my favorite lines from Randy is also, I mean, he definitely hits the steward, not owner thing, but to me, one of his the thing that's always stayed with me is you can't take it with you, but you can send it ahead.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I love that line, of trading like temporal for eternal.
Yeah.
So so tell us more about how now you got involved in the Middle East and North Africa. How did that come about?
Well, there's another guy, Phil Butler. I don't know if you ever known Phil, had a ministry called InterDev, and he was all about the Great Commission. The mission of that organization was to establish strategic evangelistic partnerships in 132 gateway cities across the 1040 window.
Wow.
And they were talking China, India, and the Middle East and so forth.
Big time pioneer. Clearly.
And he was a friend, and he'd come and like wanting me to fund some of the work. But what was interesting is this idea of being able to form partnerships among ministries.
Mm-hmm.
And I was forming partnerships.
Yeah, partnerships.
And it's like, really, you can do this in ministry?
Right.
Because
the GPLP language, like
yeah,
the general partner, limited partner, how you do it together. We can do a better project
yeah.
together, Yeah, that makes sense.
And the only way we could do real estate is we had to get people who actually wanted to be in real estate together, and we could do bigger and more
Exactly.
together. So all those ideas just resonated with. So then he asked me to be on his board. I couldn't actually figure out how he was doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I audited for a year. And so I said, during this first year, I want to actually see the training that you've developed for partnership facilitators, because he'd bring these guys from around the world to London to go through 2 weeks of this training. So I went to London. I sat through that training. It was really well done. It was just biblically based. It was professionally. And then these guys would actually develop an initial plan to create a partnership in their country. And then I said, okay, I want to go see one of these partnerships.
Yeah.
And that one happened to be in Malta in the Middle East. It was one of the first ones that were formed. They were not easy to get off the ground because all the big ministries didn't think they needed to involve anybody else.
Yeah, and you were trying to get the ministries to work together to have a country strategy or a regional strategy. Is that right?
And he would form these partnerships of ministries. And in some of these countries, the biggies actually weren't in Yemen or in Algeria, and there were a bunch of small.
Yeah.
We call them God's generals. God's raising up key people in every country.
Yes.
And if they can just come together in a collaborative way, some are in churches, some are in media, some are in translation, some are in humanitarian stuff, that there's synergy if they can get to know each other and to build the kingdom together. So all that started to make sense to me. I traveled a lot with Phil, met a lot of amazing indigenous leaders.
Yeah.
And which you've met some of those too. And so my business was prospering. I'm seeing that I'm a steward. So a couple things happened. I started to see, and I would say this to anybody who's listening.
Yeah.
I began to see my business as a mission field.
Yeah.
Every property, was actually, and that's when apartment life emerged.
Mm-hmm.
I actually put pastors and staff on property to bring the gospel to people.
Yeah.
And that was the emergence. So the first thing is to see your business as a mission field.
Yeah. What can you do? Like you had apartments, so helping people be exposed to the gospel in your apartment buildings became
exactly.
It's simple, right? It doesn't have to be that complicated, right?
Exactly.
Like what's in your hand?
And the team that was on the apartment, they could hold gatherings and events, barbecues, Super Bowl, and they would always have relationship building.
Right.
People in apartments actually have all the problems everybody else. They have illness, they have breakups.
True. They need ministry.
And they need ministry. So, and it gave permission for the team, the staff that was running the apartment, to be open about their faith too.
Great point.
It actually brought, now some of the apartments, actually the management company has its own foundation that they invite tenants and employees to contribute, and then they have some of their staff representative on some of the nonprofits in the community.
Yeah.
And so they're making a difference in the community too. So it's seeing how you can be open with faith opportunities in your business. and people are coming to Christ, through these things. So
Yeah.
then, back to
Yeah, on the external
the
thing. So
middle.
Phil's doing this thing. How did you get more involved? Because I mean, this whole SRG thing is amazing.
Well, I ended up on his board, and the thing that I realized is, one, Phil putting these networks together. He actually he had huge contacts and relationships all
Yeah,
over,
right.
but he actually resisted funding them. He thought that would change the dynamics.
Hmm.
Now, he didn't come from a business background. He came from journalism and other things. But
You were maybe more comfortable with the capital situation.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
if you can resource, uh, well, let me back up again. Actually, I went to a lot of the top foundations that have been giving money away, asking them, because I didn't want to form SRG, actually. I
Mhm.
thought, well, maybe I could just learn from them. But I found I was disappointed in their lack of due diligence. I call it sort of desktop due diligence. They
Mhm.
invite ministries to their place
Mhm.
rather than going to where.
Right. Field research. You were doing field research.
Yeah, and because that's what you do in real estate. You're out.
Of course, you have to see the
You,
place.
you got to be in the
Of
neighborhood. You got to see.
course. Right. You got your map. Like, yeah.
So, uh, so I didn't learn much from them. In fact, uh, I was a member of all the gatherings and the
Yeah,
Jeff,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all
Yeah.
that, but I pretty much got rejected, and because I ended up presenting a model that wasn't consistent with,
The way they did it.
and some of them, a lot of people, either the wealth creator was dead, and there was somebody else making the decision,
Decisions.
or they hired people to give their money away.
Yeah.
And so what happened is we actually had a stronger due diligence model and a more involvement in the countries. So we actually became a threat to some of the staff in some of the larger foundations. They actually said, your stuff is better than ours. Why, if we recommend you, they're not going to need us.
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
Well, this actually makes sense. The aha moment for me in this chat has been your experience as essentially the GP or the general partner of
Yeah,
real estate operations, where you
yeah,
can do bigger projects together. Like, I mean, I can go buy a little 10-unit
yeah,
place where I can give you my money, not, you know
yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm saying? We can
Invest.
partner and buy a 300
Yeah,
deal apartment
good.
with 100 other
Yeah,
families or 20 of us or whatever, and you run it professionally, the returns will be better. Frankly, it's less headache, but I can always go
yeah,
see it.
yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so it's been a joy to be involved with SRG personally, to
Yeah,
see that model that totally makes sense to me, and why you think like a GP operator.
yeah.
And then, hey, man, if you knock yourself out, come with us, come check it out, and so it's
But
really been. I think it's a very. I think the rest of the world is kind of coming your way
yeah,
with solving the world's greatest problems, faith
yeah,
driven, and all these kind of things, where they're trying to create essentially funds to solve these,
yeah,
different
exactly.
issues. And I think Illuminations maybe on the Bible translation, and then SRG on the kind of
Yeah,
MENA area. I mean, those are to me the two shining nonprofit examples of
yeah.
kind of ahead of your time. But it sounds to you, I can tell by talking to you, it's like a simple idea. It's like not, it's really
It,
not that
yeah.
complicated. It's just getting people to cooperate. What do you think the key is there to help have ministries kind of lay down their IP or not worry? You know what I mean? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a natural thing to worry about your own funding and maybe think more communally about solving the problem.
Well, it. See, what I was going to say. One of the key points is I went with Phil to Malta
Mm,
several times actually, and met a lot of indigenous ministry leaders.
yeah.
And then we go to Egypt, and we go to different places. I went to Algeria and on. And one time I'm coming back and out to I was my purpose primarily was to figure out how to give my money away.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
God's
You're trying to steward your own thing.
Yeah, and yet I didn't have enough to respond to all the needs I saw. So that was the first thing. And then I'm coming home on a plane and reading the Financial Times, and I'm seeing pages and pages of mutual funds.
Yeah.
And it just dawned on me, well, my understanding of mutual fund is it's a fairly small staff of experts that are able to attract billions of dollars from insurance companies
Right.
and people because they know more about, if someone wants a utility fund or a China fund, or
Yeah, they have their specialty.
they have their specialties.
Just like you have it in 100 to 300 unit complexes.
Yeah. And so I decided that what we needed to do was create funds. And since I was connected with Phil and that Middle East thing, we started with 4 funds: a North Africa fund, a Arabian Peninsula fund, a Middle East fund, and then a pan-regional fund, because we saw that media was not limited to a particular region or country.
Yeah.
And that was a breakthrough to me. And we just developed that fund approach. And then the other thing is, I didn't want to, I looked at all the ways ministries raise funds. I mean, they have newsletters, they play golf, they do runs, they have banquets, and none of them, they're all sputtering anyway. So these things aren't working. So we decided just to focus on high capacity. We call them resource partners because we don't like the word donor. And we originally had a minimum of like 150,000, and which also was interesting. Some people said, "You mean you're going to turn down someone who wants to give 100,000?" I said, "Yeah, they can give directly to that ministry, but we need to hold our focus and just focus on high capacity people because they have a problem giving their money away." I don't think people have a problem writing a check for $2,000 at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have 100 million in a donor advised fund and you don't want to hire a bunch of people and create another organization, I've talked to people, they see it as almost a burden,
Yeah.
And they don't, and they sort of default. They don't want to die with it. They rather have the joy of giving it. But some of them are still running their businesses. So I saw it as a service to high capacity, resource partners, and that seems to have now resonated. I think more and more. I think people are, because it's not unlike a mutual fund.
Oh yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. If it's like accredited investors in any other kind of fund, but I just think that you have such a vast experience in the business world with apartment life, doing things for the people inside, and then really I didn't know the whole backstory of Phil, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Now,
why the Middle East? You asked me why the Middle East.
Yeah.
Okay, so that connects back to my real estate thing too, because I realized I didn't have enough money to do everything.
To do a big project. Yeah.
So then I had to ask myself, what would be the wisest way to allocate limited resources for maximum kingdom impact? It'd be the same in real estate. You only have so much. How can you use it for the maximum impact? And so that became a mantra too. So to me, I was on the Lausanne committee for development for years. And so you realize that, frankly, America doesn't lack at that time Christian bookstores, churches on every corner. This is not the area of greatest need. It may not be, the resources in America are maybe not being deployed well for Christian purposes, but they're not lacking resources. So then if you say, well, where in the world are resources could be used for maximum impact. In real estate, we talk about location, location, location. You can have a nice hotel in the wrong location and it's going to fail, but location is very important. So where on the planet would be the best place for someone to invest? And in looking in scripture, at least I believe that history began in the Middle East. It's going to end in the Middle East. It's the home of the three major religions. In the 1040 window, it's the least resourced. After 9/11, no one wanted to go there. They didn't understand it. They're fearful of it. They don't understand the culture, the language. And it's the home of Israel and Palestine. It's actually, even today, that region of the world drives the social, economic, and political agenda of the world. Whether it's the oil or whether it's ISIS. And so it just seemed to me that it's the most strategic real estate on the planet. That's kind of what I had. And then the idea, another thing in Randy Alcorn's book, most people think if you're a wealth advisor, you'll talk to someone about, well, what's your passion? And I'll find 3 ministries. You know, if you like orphanages, I'll go vet them and introduce you to 3 orphanages. Well, I think that's backwards. I actually think a lot of people that have a liquidity event, sale of a business or something, they come into a lot of money quickly. They actually haven't thought through what their passion is. And they'll pretty much opt for something close by, or their alma mater, or their church or something. But if we actually said, what's God's passion, not ours? And it's for the lost, and it's for the people that will never hear or never have an opportunity to be in a believing community. So that to me fit the Middle East. You know, it's like this was the least resourced area in people, prayer, and finances. I'm not just talking. We think of resources as all 3 of those. And it's risky, and people, you know, why my daughter right now is in Syria. It has been there for several weeks, and people say, why is she going there? Well, because the government says don't go there or something. You know. Anyway, all of the Middle East are questionable places, and so that was sort of the focus of, we want to go where other people don't go, and we want to go into an area that if the Holy Spirit moves in the Middle East, it could change the world. It's the home of Islam, which is the most aggressive ideology against Christianity on the globe. So that's why the Middle East, and God is raising up amazing indigenous leaders, both Christian background,
and Muslim
women, men, Muslim background. It's amazing, and that's sort of what SRG has been doing for years, is identifying and building relationships with those that are in those countries that God is raising.
I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast on this, and I've been to some of those events with SRG to hear about this, but just do maybe 1 minute on, clearly the trend is happening, and there's, you want to just talk about kind of the oppression that's happening, and maybe that, I don't know what God's up to, but clearly there have been more people in that region coming to Christ.
Yes.
In a sentence or 2, why do you think that is?
Well, I do think that area has been part of God's history.
Yeah.
To begin with, I think He cares about the Middle East. I think it's still the case with Israel and Islam, that Islam has sort of brought darkness to that region. And I think the people now, frankly, with the breakthrough of social media and internet and cell phones, they're seeing a world that they've been locked out of. It's been a world of darkness. And, we call some of the first software stuff the windows. It's
Yeah.
opened a window.
They know what's out there.
Darkest places. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing technology areas.
Great point.
Refugees will charge their phone before they'll
Right.
buy bread or something.
Right. On
It's
a solar
amazing.
panel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It
So
is.
it's a great opportunity, and it's part of our life now.
Yeah.
Like in my lifetime, I can remember it was Nazism, then communism.
Mm. Mm.
Now it's Islam. Our
Mm.
kids need to know, and grandkids need to know about Islam,
Great
because
point.
there's no majority Islamic country that's a free country.
Great point.
And so it has great significance in world history. The other thing I was thinking, I was just in a conference last week, but if you look at all the things that are happening in that region, let's say civil war, ISIS, uh, runaway inflation, extreme poverty in
Mhm.
Yemen and some of the other countries, extreme uh, wealth in the Gulf states. I mean, the extremes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, you've got refugee camps all over the place. You've got every they've had earthquakes, you've had floods, everything that happens globally, but not all in one place, is happening there.
Yeah.
And so if we can learn how to spread the gospel in that area, then we'll know how to we can actually extrapolate that into global reach.
Yeah. It's pretty tough ground. If you can
Yeah,
make it there, you can make it anywhere, maybe. But
yeah.
well, Paul, we've got to wrap it up. This has
Oh,
been
it says,
so rich. I love spending time with you and just having conversation. I know it's been a blessing to people listening, but
well,
we were talking before we started recording about kind of the guy on the treadmill who's running a business going pretty well, maybe like you back in the day, and
yeah.
uh, trying to think about how to use the business as a platform for ministry or just head in that direction. What's just a practical piece of advice that you'd give them to take a step in the right direction tomorrow?
Wow. I would say, first of all, understand that you're a steward, you're not an owner. And for me, what that's done is I've actually still at my age learning more how to pray. And to me, prayer is as much listening as it is speaking. And so what I'm trying to do in my giving of God's resources is to listen to him better. I'm actually trying to do that very intentionally, of where he would have me deploy his provision that he's put in my influence. And that's been a sort of a growing blessing to me, because I've never heard a lot of teaching. Prayer has a lot to do with listening.
I'm a baby at that.
I know.
And that's where the juice comes from, and I'm just blabbering.
Yeah. Well,
So
stop blabbering. Just listen.
I know I got to do a better job of listening. That's a great tip. I think
Yeah.
get in a position of being a steward, and as my friend Terry Looper likes to say, get neutral,
Yeah.
because it helps if I lay down my biases and then
Yeah.
try to listen better and talk a little
And I
less.
think one other thing of Randy, since we both think pretty good, a lot of wealth advisors said, where they think where your passion is, there you're giving.
Yeah.
Randy would say it's the other. When you give to something, your passion will follow. It's one of the principles, and you can prove this. Just buy a stock and then you'll watch it every day and see how it's doing.
Yeah. Where your heart is,
Yeah.
yeah. Where your money is, your heart is also.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll
And
follow. Your heart will follow. It's
yes,
not the
yes.
other way around. That's
Well, it's been true as I've been involved with SRG. It's just my awareness of what is happening in the Middle East, and
yeah.
especially from a faith perspective, has heightened for
It's
sure.
on the
So
news every night, right?
exactly, I
Iran,
just
all
wasn't
that.
maybe in tune as much as I am now, but Anyway, Paul, thank you for your faithfulness and for sharing your story, the ups and downs. And it's been a real pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much.
And thanks everybody for listening to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. Share it with a friend, subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.